do, there haven't been a lot of runway shows just because of what's been going on. But I think the overall trend that I see is like, we were already headed to like, this like wear sweatpants all the time world. Now I literally just saw a thing on the Today Show. I think it was like yesterday, and it was like how to wear sweatpants everywhere you go. And I was like, no, don't do that. Stop. So I do see the overall trend is like people are really, athleisure is like the only clothes that people are interested in. My only hope is that like maybe like now I see like lots of luxury athleisure brands like Henro and Moncler and even Peter Millar and major brands, Brunello Cucinelli, they're all doing like these very luxurious, like beautiful nylon jackets, a nylon sport coat, very Prada 1991, with like a skinny jogger like pant. That's not cheap. It's like a $300 like, Italian wool and silk pant. But I do see that as a major trend, like athleisure, unfortunately.
I think you're right. What about like when you just think of like celebrities, like who just comes to mind as like the best, some of the best dressed, like that always usually, I mean, we all make mistakes, but like that usually get it right.
I think Zendaya is like what I love about her, and she's styled by Law Roach. First of all, she's gorgeous, so she can basically wear anything. But I like that she's out there like taking chances and pushing different designers and looking really sexy and taking some risks, but always looking incredible. I love for guys, people always ask like, who are the guys that look great? I'm like, the guys play it so safe and they wear like a Brioni tux and they call it a day. And that's great. George Clooney has never not looked good ever. Brad Pitt has never not looked good ever. But I think somebody that has some fun with it and that really has style. I think of like Lenny Kravitz, for example. Like he understands clothes and loves them. And you can tell that he gets it and he kind of does it himself because it always looks very authentic to him.
I got nothing wrong with the little Lenny Kravitz. I see nothing wrong with that.
It's a dreamboat.
He is a dreamboat. Let's talk season 14 of Drag Race. Here we are.
Yeah. Yes, here we are. We've seen 2 episodes now, and we've met all of the contestants. And there's so much diversity there. We have our first cisgendered heterosexual male contestant, who I thought thus far has been doing really well, and is a really interesting, lovely story. Seeing that dynamic of how somebody wants to do something like drag, which is not something a lot of straight guys do, and him being embraced by the cast and by the show and saying, drag is a place where everyone gets to play with all the different crayons in the crayon box. And it's also been a very diverse and inclusive art form. So it makes sense. And I think it's been really great. So that's been interesting. Who are you liking?
I love Maddie Morphosis just for that reason. I think it's so interesting that there is, I mean, look, I think Drag Race has been great with diversity and inclusion. We've had like trans men, trans women. Right. I think it was about time we had a straight cisgender male that does drag, right? Like Maddie can't be the only person in the whole world, right?
Right. And, maybe he'll inspire other guys that wanted to do drag that didn't feel comfortable doing it. So that's the power of visibility and inclusion on television, is that people see themselves and they say, wait a minute, if they can do it, I can do it.
What about when people, because listen, you all know there's this online community, there's people have an opinion on everything. What about, because it has been somewhat controversial in the sense that people are like, we don't want a straight guy on Drag Race. We don't want that. Then there's like, I mean, I'm not saying that. Don't look at me. And then there's people, especially like when Ru announced this, now that was a whole controversy. Like, why did RuPaul announce this? Like, you shouldn't have announced someone's sexuality. So like, I have no problem with any of this, but like, what do you say to that? Like when people are like, this is a place not really for the straights.
I say that, think of it as a party. It's always more fun when you have a variety of people. And my motto has always been the more the merrier. So, and it's a competition. So just, we shouldn't be concerned about who's doing it. Let's just be concerned about who's doing it well and make sure that they're recognized.
That's a good point. Has there ever been someone that like won or someone that you really thought should have won and you're just like, oh, like for me, like not taking anything away from anyone, but I love Gottmik. Like Gottmik is one of my favorites of all time, where you're just like, oh, I'm so
Right.
upset this person. Do you ever have those moments? You can keep them to yourself, but like where you're just like,
honestly, not really, because when we get down to the top three, it's usually like kind of like anybody could win for a variety of reasons. It's just, they all tick different boxes. So no, I don't think there's ever been a time where I was just like, gosh, I was disappointed by that. I love, I love when people come back for All Stars, and maybe what I have thought while judging is like, gosh, this person could win this like in a year or two. They just haven't like hosted enough club gigs to like really know how to command a stage, or they just haven't quite figured out what their brand is, or they just haven't quite figured out their clothes. And then they come back like 2 or 3 years later and they've been out there, they've been working, they were on the show. So they get booked now and they're everywhere. And they have more access to, maybe better stylists or helpers in the costume field, or maybe they just get better makeup or whatever. And they come back and they kill it. And I'm just like, oh yes, this is like vindication. Like I have those moments a lot.
what about, is there ever someone that like stands out that maybe went home too early? Like not that should have won, but just you think is like, this is such an underrated queen. Like this queen is just, just maybe didn't perform well her season and is gone.
Right. Oh, there's so many like that actually, because, it is the first week or two of the competition are really hard. Everyone's getting their bearings. If you've not done reality TV before, you're like, wait, I'm going to be up like 12 hours a day and someone's always going to be following me. Like there's a lot of reasons why you may not bring your A game those first couple of weeks. Someone like Vanjie, I mean, she like left and said, Miss Vanjie became like this like internet, breaking moment, and has come back. She's so talented and has so many fans. So she's kind of the poster child for someone who left early, but still wound up slaying the game and came back on an All Stars and showed us, or actually came back one season later and showed us what she's got.
Are you ever shocked? Because I'm shocked. Like I live in New York, I'm in LA all the time. So like I've seen so many queens, top queens. I just am always like, how could there be a season 14? Like, how could there be a season 15? Like, haven't we run out? Like, I'm always amazed that
right,
RuPaul, everyone involved just finds so many more interesting people every season.
Well, we have a great casting company and they've won Emmys for it, and they've helped the producers and Ru, who, hand select these people, but they help kind of field that team, and they're really good at it. And I think also the show being so popular, it's created maybe more drag queens. People are more into it, or maybe just, discovered it. So I'm always impressed by, if we have like an 18-year-old queen on who was like, I started doing drag because I watched season like 9. I was like, 9? I was like, what? That was only like 5 years ago. So there's, that's the other thing that I think keeps the show so fresh, is that we always have a fresh crop of new queens. And if you're like me and you're out and about, I'm always discovering new queens as well. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you need to try out for Drag Race. And they may be like young and new, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I was like, well, keep trying out. Like, just eventually one day it's going to click.